Hey, how's it going? It's your boy, Challenger Coach Adam Mortiarty. I was here to bring you the 10.8 pick of the patch video where we go over our top and up and coming picks, so let's just get right into it. First up, we have one of the biggest center champs in the game, known for his win lane, win game playstyle. It's RENEKTON, although I guess it's also lose game, because he automatically loses in the late game. Although that part really doesn't matter, because with the changes to the jungle XP and solo kill XP specifically, lane bullies like RENEKTON, who it's honestly just extremely easy to get a solo kill with, are really strong on this patch. Sure, his stats, especially in low elo, might not reflect that, but he's still a high priority pick in high elo and competitive play due to how hard he just win lanes just for picking RENEKTON. The normal reason why people hate RENEKTON in low elo, including me, is because yeah, his late game is terrible and game times are longer in there, but all of that doesn't really matter because people are doing the wrong build on him, which is why his win rate is actually just so bad. The majority of the player base is still doing Black Cleaver first on RENEKTON, which is just a huge mistake as it has an average of below 50% win rate, while Bork first has a 52% win rate with similar pick rates. Black Cleaver still slightly higher. So I know it might be scary to be a little bit more squishy on RENEKTON, but it is the better first item, and if you're not comfortable doing it, you just shouldn't be playing RENEKTON, I'm sorry. But if you are comfortable going Bork first on RENEKTON, being a little bit more squishy, completely bullying lane and one-shotting people, then yeah, it's obviously the champion for you, and he's gonna do really well in this patch. And next up, one of the champions who's one of the biggest solo queue stompers in the game right now, Alien vs Predator wannabe RENGAR. The new jungle changes to XP were just huge for him. The increased XP on solo kills is fantastic for a champion that likes to early invade sometimes and cheese people, and even if he doesn't do that, those early ganking junglers that can cause RENGAR to lose some games because yeah, he is a farm to 6 jungler are doing worse on this patch, so it's just really nice for RENGAR to be able to just clear and then hit level 6 and then kill someone for free because that's how the champion works. Now, another reason why this champion is doing so well on this patch is his build has been optimized a little bit better now. You're still gonna go Tiamat over finishing something like Warriors, but after that you're gonna go Duskblade into Edge of Night. It's an incredibly strong build and it gives him even less counterplay than it already does. I mean, there's already so little counterplay when he gets fed, but now you can't even knock him out of the leap in time, and he didn't have that long to do that to begin with. There's just no counterplay to this champion when he's fed now, and for some reason after he's killed one person, he can just yell really loud and get away. Like, what is that? Why does an assassin have that ability? Anyways, RENGAR super good on this patch. If you've played League of Legends at all in Season 10, you'll probably know that the meta is pretty much all short-range champions that all like to dive in with engaged tanks, Bork abusing bruisers as of late, and or just assassins in general, especially in mid lane. And who better to collect some free LP off those assassin pickers than a Galio? I mean, that was obviously a rhetorical champion. There are better champions than Galio in the game, but there's not that many in terms of the stats. He is a pretty popular pick nowadays with a 5% pick rate, but he's got a really nice win rate at 52.5, and in high elo it even goes higher than that at around 53. And those are just his worldwide stats where he does a lot better and is more popular in both Korean and Chinese solo queue. Not to mention, you should probably expect to see him in competitive play pretty soon because people just love that champion there. The reason why they love him is that he's really consistent. He's got that strong gank assist, he's safe in lane, he's really good at roaming, but more importantly for people in solo queue, he denies assassin picks in lane. He negates them, he bores them, they can't do anything, they can't roam, he's just gonna ult and follow them. They can't team fight versus him because of all of his AoE crowd control, and even now his ultimate gives a magic damage shield, which is really good because AP assassins are really popular right now. He is just one of the best anti-assassin picks in the meta currently, and he makes every assassin player regret every life decision that led to actually locking in an assassin versus Galio. I have read multiple in-game chats lately where someone just rages at the person for just picking Galio before the lane even starts, so you know it's going to be a good game. This next champion is the single best solo queue support in the meta when mastered, and no, it's not Thresh, even though everyone who's ever picked Thresh, main Thresh, or thought about maining Thresh would say otherwise. It's in fact my boy Bard. El Bardo currently sits at around a 54% win rate and 10% pick rate in Diamond Plus, while Thresh it's only 51 to 22. In Master Tier though, Thresh goes to a 55% win rate and a 23% pick rate, which is just astronomical. But in Masters Plus for Bard, that's a 58% win rate and pretty close in terms of pick rate at 17%. So, you know, there's a clear obvious winner there. So if you're looking to master any support champion in Season 10, it should be the manliest Chad support, my boy Brad, as he does everything you kind of want from a support in solo queue. He can easily 1v9 the early game, both in terms of laning phase, setting up kills, setting up picks, or just roaming around and annoying everyone. This happens even in competitive play. Remember that G2 versus Mad Lions game 5 where Mickey X roams to the blue buff early on, I think he was like level 3 or level 2, something like that, and just kills Shadow? Like, Bard is 1v9 early game. You can just walk into the enemy jungle and kill someone, and that happened in competitive. Imagine what happens in solo queue. That jungle player probably just leaves. He's probably just AFKs. Now, on a more serious note, in terms of his builds, he's got a lot of options. You can do more AP-oriented with things like Proto Belt, Nashor's Tooth, Leandry's, Twin Shadows. You can do tank carry builds that are featured actually on previous videos like Dead Man's Plate, Rapid Fire Cannon. But I wanted to feature his normal support setup with Guardian 2 as it's his most consistent setup if you don't want to do anything too weird. But if you're not into the weird stuff, maybe Bard isn't the champ for you. I want to talk about this kind of trend right now where it's popular to say that AD carries suck. And I'd like to join in on this topic by stating that you always have the option to play scaling bot lane mages like Veigar, for example. He currently holds a 55% win rate, only a 1% pick rate though, but he is one of the strongest carry options in the bot lane for low elo, where actually mage bot laners perform better than the traditional AD carries. The reason for that is he's able to farm safely in a dual lane even if his support is AFK, either on him, in spirit or physically too, and is always useful when he goes Glacial Augment setup. He's kind of like Ashe in that sense, but honestly, his utility is way better than hers because he's a mage. Also, I mean, it's pretty obvious he's really good in the late game, so you don't have to worry about damage output, but he's got some really sick meta combos right now. This one's a bit of a cheese, but him and Yuumi do really well together because of the absurd amount of AP that he gets eventually in the late game, although it's really bad in lane. Ones that are actually good in lane and can be used at a high level are Alistar, as the headbutt, even while someone's in the cage, is pretty much acts like a stun, so Alistar ends up with 3 stuns technically. And then there's also the Pike combo where you can drag someone into the Veigar cage and then you use double executes. Really fun combo and strong even at high levels of solo queue. Next up, we've got a champion who kind of gets memed on for being really bad, but is actually doing super well on this patch in particular, and that's Fiddlesticks. Fidel is a champion that got a huge benefit from the jungle XP changes. He's a champion that likes to kind of AFK farm, and then he does scale really well in the late game, so all positive things for him, as well as the early game jungler's not doing as well. He also got some hotfix buffs to his damage, and then people have actually had time to learn his new kit. Keeping all of that in mind, you no longer have to dodge him, because actually I was doing that prior to this, because on patch 10.7 he had a 43% win rate, but now on 10.8, even in Plat Plus, he's got a 52% win rate with a 5% pick rate, meaning Fiddle is doing really well. Also, not to mention, his build has been optimized a little bit, where Electrocute or Dark Harvest are the go-to. It is preference, although Dark Harvest might be a little bit better for low elo solo queue, while Zhonya's, Leandry's, and Deathcap are his best items. Actually, Leandry's is really clutch on him, and you should be picking it up over Morello's whenever you can on that champion. Oh man, I mean, somewhere in a dark room, I feel the nodding approval of a shadowy figure after I just said that. I wonder who it could be. Anyways, the next champion in general is just not that popular, and to be honest, he should be, because Zilean is just monstrous on this patch. He's seen play both in mid lane and support in competitive this season with consistently high solo queue win rates in both solo lanes. Yeah, that's right, he does well in top lane too, but he also does well in support, where he is most popular now. The reason for that is he's one of the champions that requires the least amount of gold to do his job in the game, which is perfect for support. But just in general, he is a champion that has a lot of synergy with the meta carry champions in the meta. You got things like Darius, Mordekaiser, Garen, which are absolutely unstoppable with Zilean speed, bombs being thrown on them, and the ultimate. Then in the jungle, you got Graves, Master Yi, Shyvana, Rengar. You ever gotten run down by a Rengar with Zilean speed? Impossible, you just die. And then any melee assassin has good synergy from them in the mid lane, and you can sometimes prevent Yasuo's from inting. And then the AD carry role, you got things like Aphelios, Jhin, Misfortune. Even in the LCK, they love playing Misfortune with things like Lulu or Zilean, because he just runs at you at the speed of light and then hits you with auto Q auto and you die. Zilean happens to be one of the strongest sleeper picks in the entire game for Season 10, but the reason he's probably going to remain like that is he quite literally puts people to sleep, both when you play him and when you play versus him, and that auto attack animation is just terrible. For his build, I do want to mention there is a new slow build that's pretty popular. It might seem weird without Glacial Augment, but it does make sense because his laning phase becomes far too weak with it, and he doesn't actually need the slow field from it to hit his combo afterwards, so that's why he doesn't actually take it. Next up for the mid lane, one of the single strongest late game carries in the game, Snake Lady Cassio here. The Medusa ripoff is the second strongest solo queue control mage behind Syndra, and does do better than her after the mid game, as her DPS is honestly pretty overpowered. and the utility from Miasma versus the large amount of melee comps is one of the strongest tools in the game with so much mobility creep to begin with. One of the things I did want to clear up about her is her build. There's a lot of debate between going Liandry second and Rallies, but the data shows that Rallies is almost always better, and the reason for that is it artificially increases her DPS because it changes the way she actually plays the champion. Once you have Rallies, you don't even need to be good at Cassio anymore. You just E and then Q, because E will apply the slow and then the Q becomes really easy to land. If you actually go Liandry's first, you might miss a Q, which will actually decrease your DPS in a lot of situations. So if you're playing Cassio, go Rallies second. There's also another adaptation that you can do in farm matchups. You can take the CDR Quint or Shard. I still call them Quints. It's a really good option versus farm matchups because a lot of the times Cassio doesn't actually even have the mana pool to kill people early until tier anyway. So it's a good thing to grab CDR for the late game. Okay, now I feel like I talk about my boy Treeman Lamalkai a lot recently, but it's mostly because people have finally started to give him the respect that he deserves on his name. Currently holds a 53% win rate and a 9% pick rate in Plat Plus. Pretty much he holds that in every single bracket, with a lot of pros reluctantly practicing him in solo queue. Well, you know, hopefully just not in mid lane. For his build, it's pretty standard. Everyone knows it by now. And in terms of what Maokai does, I'm pretty sure everyone knows about that now too. He's really annoying to deal with in lane. Riven players hate themselves when playing against it. You know, the standard. But what many people forget about Maokai and what I want to talk about is they just miss his ultimate or just misuse it. Now recently, because my ping's been really high and sometimes I don't feel like trying on my off roll, I've been picking Maokai for some pretty free wins. So I will teach you how to properly use Maokai ultimate. First off, he is one of the best champions due to the new TP changes with the movement speed, where you're just going to want to set up that flank with the TP and then ulti from behind. That's the best way to use it. Although sometimes you don't need to do that kind of engage to win, but it's still good to know. But of course, sometimes you can't actually hit the ultimate, so what you're going to want to do to aim it is you still want to go at a little bit of an angle, but you should do it so that the very edge will actually hit the person if they stand still, and then aim the remaining portion of it to where they're going to be running. Maokai ultimate should be used in a way that makes it so that if they run straight, they're going to get hit by it, but if they stop, even if they stop or run towards you to dodge it, it's not going to matter because you're going to be able to run at them, waddle at them into W range. So zoning ultimates on Maokai is a real concept. Just use it so that you can actually get into W range. Last up, we got that Ashe, because the buff she received to her attack speed pushed her into the 52% win rate category, which might not seem like a lot, but for 80 carries these days, anything above 50% could be considered pretty godly. Her standard build is still performing best, where you're going to grab that lethal tempo, the Bork, the Runon's Hurricane, but she does have a new setup that I want to feature here, where she goes Trinity Force, and it's growing in popularity a lot thanks to Saber. The idea behind the build is pretty simple. You're going to use Halo Blade so that you can quickly stack up your Q, and then you're going to go 40% CDR for a lot of poke and a lot of ultimate so that you can set up picks. The build is really fun, although it just does slightly worse than the regular one. The situations where it does better is where you have a lot of ultimate targets to pick, or the enemy is mostly ranged champions. Now, of course, the reason why it's not as popular now or doesn't do as well now is most of the comps are very tank and frontline heavy, so you're going to want that Bork. But in situations where the enemy team is mostly ranged or they're squishy, this build will perform better, and I would give it a shot because it's super fun. Your ultimate is up all the time. That's it, folks. So thank you everyone for watching our 10.8 pick of the patch video. Be sure to check out our other content on this channel as well as at Mobalytics.gg. As always, I'm your host, Adam Mortiarty Isles, and may the new and old solo queue gods be with you.